There's a bigness we seem to be called to in this moment, in this place, in this state, in this day. However we came into the room, whatever we were feeling coming into the room, whatever we were thinking coming into the room, whatever we expected coming into the room. Spirit responds to us at the level of our seeming need. Once we show up and make ourselves available and open up ourselves to the allness and the fullness that's already given to you and given to me. And as the scriptures say, God awaits your availability. See, it's not the other way around. God awaits your availability, my availability. And how available are we to that which is godly? Ask ourselves that question. Think of any given day within it. How available are we to the godliness that is endeavoring to express itself through us? Do we have time for it? Caught up in the busyment of the embodiment, and I love that term. One of my teachers used to use it. The busyment of the embodiment. And it has to do with all things earthly, all things in form. And that was the question we were asked, In the embodiment of your embodiment, how available are you to that which is of spirit, to that which is of truth? And God bless us and help us all. We'll say to ourselves, I do the best I can. That's the greatest load of baloney you could ever tell yourself, because it's not true. If you were doing the best that you could, you would have transcended a long time ago, and so would I. What we're saying is, I'm doing what I choose to do. Because what I can do is enormous. Enormous. The best thing to say is I'm doing what I'm doing at the moment, And that would be more the truth. Now, last week I brought out this is what jumped out at me the day before last Wednesday, which would have been last Tuesday, to share, but then it took on its own life, as it always does. But I love these little books. Treat Yourself to Life by Raymond Charles Barker. And it's down to earth, bread and butter, common sense stuff. It's the way of the practice so that you and I can get ourselves to that beautiful state that we've just experienced. Not for 2 minutes in a day, or even 5 minutes in a day, or 3 minutes in a day, but for long stints of the day, until we reach most of the day, and eventually it becomes our natural way of being. And so the page that was opened up began with, it's on page 4. Your future is self-determined. Well, future doesn't exist. So what I would say is your life is self-determined in every moment by the way you're thinking and feeling and carrying on. That's how your life is determined. You may not believe this, he says, but it is true. I have spent 50 years listening to people, God help him, who tried to convince me how sick they were, how poor and unhappy they were, or how unappreciated, oh my gosh, can you identify with that one? How unappreciated we all are. Now, as long as you and I are feeling underappreciated, we have a ways to go. We're still in kindergarten as far as spirituality is concerned. Every time we need the pat on the back, every time we need the prize, every time we need the reward, every time we need the recognition, every time we need the limelight, every time, every time, every time. And that's across the board for everybody. Nobody is exempt from this. Nobody. But every time we go there, we've gone back to kindergarten, which is okay because we can come out of it again. Beauty of this is now I can graduate myself from kindergarten just like that. But that's a real sure sign we haven't, or we're not, at this moment in time, operating from a level of spiritual maturity. So it's something for us all to pay attention to be mindful of. Always they have declared that the cause of their problem came from sources outside of themselves. We all know that. It is easier to blame the weather for your cold than it is to realize that your unconscious anger has produced it, or your own inner congestion has produced it, or whatever produced it in us for whatever reason. And some of us are astute enough to kind of get that. It is easier, it is easier to blame your partner for an unhappy marriage than it is to ask yourself, in the last 5 years, have I been the kind of person with whom another could live happily? These are hard questions. I don't wait for 5 years. I'd say ask yourself every day, is today a day I'm going to create wherein my spouse, my partner, my cat, my dog, my friend, my roommate would be happy to live alongside of me? Don't wait for 5 years. It's kind of a bit late in the day. But every day. I may have told you before, I had friends, they were doctors. And every week of their lives after they got married, they sat down with a cup of coffee over the kitchen table. Even when children were running around when they were small or visiting when they were adults, they'd sit down at the coffee table every single, I think it was Saturday morning, they said. And they'd say, okay, are we able to do this for another week? Do we want to do this for another week? Can we put up with each other for another week? Will we make it through another week? What are the odds? Fabulous couple, great successful marriage and family life, wonderful careers. But they asked themselves the questions, you know what I mean? They asked themselves the pertinent questions. They didn't let themselves off the hook, and they didn't say, sure she knows. Sure he knows how much he means to me, how much I love her. They didn't say that. They asked each other, what do you think? Are you feeling it, in other words? Are you feeling it? Do you still feel the same way you felt on the day we stood and faced each other and made vows to each other? Are you still getting it? Does it still light your fire? Does it still make you feel good? And when you come home of a day, are you thrilled to be going home after your day's work to your home? And cannot wait to see your child or your spouse or your friend or the dog or the cat. But are you thrilled to go home to your home every day? Or do some of us go home feeling we're going home to a mausoleum? Because some people feel like that. Oh my God. I know of people who sit in their cars mustering up the guts to go inside the door. And that's sad. So I love these practical books that ask us practical questions. They make us face ourselves down and stop, fooling ourselves. Or pressuring ourselves into settling for something that's not working. Something that cannot enliven us. but indeed quite the contrary, sucks the oxygen out of us. Good questions to ponder. So he says, people in problems give more than 60% of their thinking, their feeling, and their talking to the details of their problems. He says, suggest to a chronic complainer, and that could be yourself, suggest to a chronic complainer that she change attitudes and topics of conversation. Well, that's like, asking the cat to sing, Summertime. You know of these people. You may as well ask the cat to sit up there and sing Summertime and enthrall us. And you know cats. They're going to go, yeah. And so, I get what he is saying, but you know and I know that after suggesting to people who are chronic complainers for a year or 2 or 3 or 10 or 30, you're whistling in the wind. Or you'd be better off whistling in the wind. The wind would pay more attention, actually. And if we ourselves are in the habit of complaining, you know how hard it is to stop it, to knock it off and stop it. You will soon realize why she is where she is, experiencing what that is. To the observer, the facts fit together. The cause is obvious and the correction is possible. To the sufferer, however, with his or her whole thought absorbed in the condition, the remarks of a helpful friend are meaningless. Do we get that? And as for those people who ask for your advice incessantly, you know they're not going to benefit from your advice, nor are they going to take your advice. They're going to do what they've already decided they're going to do before they asked you for your advice. So that's a kind of an abortive endeavor. There are 4 major fields of experience in life, and we know this. Actually, you can have only 4 basic problems: health, wealth, you know that, love, and self-expression. So health, financial, relationship, and creative expression. Those are the 4 pillars of our lives, and we want them all to be healthy. You think of these problems as sickness, lack of money, unhappiness, bad personal relationships, or frustration in your work. You may have 1 or 2 of these, or any combination of them, or all of them. Whatever you think your lack may be, you are probably at this moment concentrating on it. Whenever we have a problem, what do? We focus on it, do we not? We give it our all. We fill ourselves up with it. We lash ourselves to it. And it's ever before us. And we're always feeling it. Yet, you are constantly disappointed that you do not have an abundance of health, of wealth, of love, and of creation in expression. Now see, how can I create for myself the good that I desire when I'm always thinking of its opposite? How can I do that? I can only create for myself what I'm pondering, what I'm contemplating, what I'm fascinated by, what has caught me up in my imagination, what I am empowering. Because anything I think about, anything I imagine, anything I picture, anything I feel, I empower. Now, how can I be open and receptive to health, wealth, loving relationships, and creative expression when I'm all the time thinking and feeling the opposite, that I haven't got what I say I'm open to? It's impossible. It's impossible. Remember, two things cannot occupy the same space at one time. I'm not going to sit in that chair because Ashley's sitting in it. There's no room for me. Simple, 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 simple. Simple concepts to understand. Challenging ones to practice. Must my present life be incomplete? The question he asks. No. You did not come into this world to be unhappy. Oh my. Knowing all the people around and about you and looking at them, you never think that. I think if you were to know some people and sense their energy and get what they're thinking and share in their conversations, you would think they came in here to be a victim, and only a victim, and that was the only reason why they're here. To suffer and to be a victim. Life wants you to be happy. When are we ever going to get that? We hear it and it's nice. Isn't that nice? Life wants me to be happy. We go out the door and we say, that's a load of baloney. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Life gets in the way. Life wants you to be happy. The question is, do you yourself want to be happy? As an aspect of life. It's the other way round. We get in the way of life. Not life getting in our way. We get in the way of life. You know, there's an expression that I grew up with in good old Ireland 200 years ago. Man proposes and God disposes. Well, I've come to the conclusion that God proposes, but man disposes. I think it's the other way around. I really do. He says, the way you can be happy and fulfilled in these 4 areas of your experience is to treat yourself to life. It's the name of the book. Treat yourself to life. When did you last seriously sit down and say, today I'm going to treat myself to life? Well, you may have sat down and said, today I'm going to treat myself to a big ice cream. And get all joyous about that and giddy with delight. I really am. I'm going to get an ice cream today. Or I'm going to have one of those chocolate lava cakes or whatever when I go to lunch. I don't care if it takes them 20 minutes to bake it or cook it or whatever. It's my treat, and I'm treating myself to life in that way, in the form of a nice, thick chocolate shake or lava cake, because I deserve it. I've been good. It's my reward. Well, now, if you were to sit down and I was to sit down and say, today I'm going to treat myself to a nice big chunk of life because I deserve it. It's my reward. I'm going out there and I'm ready for it. I'm going to drink it up, eat it up. I'm going to go yum, 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 yum. I'm going to lick my lips and say, my God, that was great. That could be a walk by the ocean. That could be the discovering of a small little delicate flower growing through a lump of concrete. That could be the absolute chuckle and giggle of a baby giving itself fully to the joy of the moment. It could be any conceivable thing that you're awake enough, alert enough to recognize, to perceive, and to see the moreness in it. Fill yourself up with life. So treating ourselves to life takes on a whole different meaning than treating myself to a nice icy popsicle on a very hot day. And that can be wonderfully good. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the noonday sun. There's a song that says that. Well, once upon a time, some time ago, I was down south. Actually, I was in South Carolina, and I was in Charleston. And with some friends, I just love the town. I love the place. I love its ambience. It has a great energy. Not to mention the great food. And the people are hugely friendly, especially the young people. It's a university town. I'm sure some of you know that. It's actually the oldest university in the country, and they have the oldest theater in the country, and the university existed before the United States of America did. So it's got a very rich sort of ambience. So we decided we were going to go and visit a plantation. Okay. But before that, we were going to go and float in the wooded, beautiful, swamp-like areas. And we did, and it was just very serene and wonderful and beautiful. And our punter and our guide was a great guy, full of all kinds of wonderful history. And I'm streaming my fingers along the waters and the lily patches and ponds and the mosses and all of that. It's as hot as Hades. It's noontime in the south in July. But I'm able to cope with that because of I'm focusing on the wonder and the loveliness. The next thing, about 5 yards from me, I see two huge eyes looking at me. And I go, oh my God. I could lose my arm. That's an alligator. And I pull in my arm very quickly and I say, hey, would you mind paddling a bit faster? Because he says, don't worry. He says, that's old George. He's not going to bother anybody. Now, this thing was as big as an alligator as I've ever seen once. He did kind of flip his tail. I could only see the flip of his tail, which seemed to be miles away from his eyes. And I took my hand in. And when we got out of that boat, there was the small little kind of, the where you get your ticket and where you get your information, and a little office like that. And attached to the little office, there was a small little store. And they didn't have much in it at all. We all made a dive over to the three of us. The three of us made a dive over to the refrigerator. And they had these huge ice popsicles. So, of course, we all got an ice popsicle. I hadn't eaten an ice popsicle since I don't know when. And then we sat down with the perspiration running down. I had a big red face because that's what happens to me in the heat. It's like I've been parboiled. And we were sucking on these things, and I can tell you, it was sweet too bad, as they say in the West Indies. It was the greatest gift God could ever give anyone in that moment, in that day, in that place, and us in that state. We could have knelt down and worshipped these popsicles. We were so grateful to them for the coolness and for the, for the wonderful feeling that we had when we discovered, isn't it wonderful the way the light gives you what you need when you need it. Small thing. But my goodness, our gratitude for it was huge. Small little thing, inexpensive little thing. And our gratitude for that was huge, and we were so present to it. This is a popsicle. It's cool. It liquefies itself in your mouth. It gets all whitey and frosty when you take the wrapper off it. It cools the body, and it tempers the temperament. So present to it. First time I ever really understood the true and real value of a popsicle. See what I'm saying? Now, everything has a meaning depending upon the meaning you bring to it. If I don't bring a meaning to something, it's kind of meaningless. It may have a meaning, but I'm not recognizing it. But if I bring the meaning to it, it's wondrous. How many cookies have you thrown into your mouth and not paid any attention to at all? Because there's an abundance of them. Especially in our place, there's an abundance of everything. I can remember, oh my goodness, I shouldn't really tell this, but I'm telling it, but don't tell anybody. For those of you listening in, don't tell anybody. So we're living in a blue zone here. Yes. And we're very committed to the blue zone. That's health-orientated zone. And it has to do with being green as much as you possibly can be green and so on. And you notice you get brown plates here sometimes. Well, they're all recycled plates and so on and so forth. We're doing our best with that. Now, that's not to say that sometimes you won't see a polystyrene thing. Well, that's because somebody has brought them in and given them to us to use. Well, they're going to be disposed of anyway, so we're going to use them before we dispose of them and so on. Bless them and know somehow or another. That's what you do. You bless them. Not that we don't buy stuff like that. But people gift us with all kinds of strange things, and the universe always says yes. And so anyway, we had a meeting with these two lovely young ladies from the Blue Zone Center, over there at the health center up there on Prospect. And they came in and they invited us. They came to us and they said, we invited you to participate in the program. We'd like you to be part of the Blue Zone, blah, blah, blah. Straight away I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope they don't walk into the kitchen at the back because there's nothing on the table except donuts and cookies and all kinds of sweet treats that are mouth-watering. And I'm thinking to myself, we're not a good example as far as what's on the kitchen table is concerned to be participants in the Blue Zone. And I remember at that time making the conscious endeavor to do something about it, but it's impossible because the universe always says yes, and we always receive what we're given, and then it has to be left to individuals to partake or not to partake. But it was so refreshing. The other night we had a meeting, the ministers at the meeting, and when we went up to the table in the conference room, this big, huge bowl of green, luscious grapes. And I thought, well, that's unusual for us. But we're making the endeavor. We're starting. And I say to myself, well, in my own home, I don't have all of that stuff. But this is my home, too. I think we get it, don't we? I think we get where we want to be, but are not there yet. But we want to be there, but we're not there yet. But we want to be there, and we tell ourselves we will be there we're going there, we're getting there. But see, that never gets us there. To be there, I have to be there now. It's kind of a conundrum, isn't it? To be anywhere I want to be, I need to be there now. And I need to get to it from it. What do I mean? I mean, I have to know it in myself. I have to feel it in myself. I have to think it in myself. I have to picture it in myself. I have to feel it in myself now. Although it's not in form present to me, it's present to me in the formless state, which is the powerful state, which is the empowered state, which is the truth state, which is the state of creativity, which is the womb of creativity. The womb of creation is my thought and feeling centers. That's how I get to where I want to be. Be there now. Be there now. And that's why I love these books. They're simple and they bring all this to us. And he goes on to say, Elizabeth Andrews seemingly, miraculously recovered from a malignant disease. And she did so through the result of her practice of scientific prayer called treatment. What is treatment? Well, I define it as using your conscious mind to select what you want, and next, directing your subconscious mind to bringing it into objective experience. This method of prayer is the spiritual technique now being used successfully by men, women, and even children to transform their conscious desires into objective reality through directing the subconscious mind. He's saying just what I've said. Think it, think it, think it. Feel it, feel it, feel it. Accept it, accept it, accept it as being here now. We create in our lives our reality through the way we think, through the way we feel, through the way we behave, through the way we act. And we have to do all that as though it were already so. Go about the business of life, knowing, thinking, and feeling this is already so. And then give it no attention. And let me tell you, prevention is better than cure. Prevention is easier than cure. It's just a little bit more challenging when the condition is more present. And here's what he says. This is the treatment. It is simple. It is concrete. It is practical. And he says, a power is in you right at this instant. Close your eyes and listen to this one because it's a prayer. Now cross yourselves so that you can allow it in. Remember, when you're praying, when you're stating the truth, always be uncrossed. Don't have your knees crossed. Don't have your arms crossed. Just let your body be flowing beautifully and allowing the energy in. A power is in you right at this instant, waiting to be released into the creative action which is your natural birthright, whether it is in your own health, your relations with another, or your work. All the love there is in the world is in you and around you at this instant. It is waiting only for the release that comes through your active awareness of it. All the health there is in the world is yours at this instant now. It is waiting only for the revelation of the perfect individual covered by the ailing person. All the riches you need in the world are yours at this instant. They await only your acceptance. The creative drive you have always had is now in action. It is calling and waiting for you to let it out into the world, to let it shine before a world that will receive you with love, warmth, and joy, since you and creation are one inseparable and eternal thing. Now is the moment. You are in it, and all is present and available to the one who says yes. And so it is. Simple, quick, not lengthy. He says, you may want health, as Elizabeth did. You may want marriage. You may want more friends. You may want a wonderful home or a career which gives you self-expression. Whatever it is you want, you can bring it into your experience now if you will realize that you can treat yourself to that experience. You can have that experience. There's nothing preventing you from the good experience that you desire except you. Except the way you think, except the way you feel, except the way you act, except the way you respond to life. Because life will correspond to the way that you respond to every situation. Life will correspond to the way that you respond to every situation. So if you go into terribilizing and awfulizing and so on, that's the way life will see you and respond to you. And so sometimes when you wonder why you're stewing in the juices of whatever, it's because life is responding to your energy. It can only do that because you are a magnetic field and you draw into yourself what you're putting out. If you're putting out negativity, you'll draw that back into you. Energy, 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 energy. It all boils down to energy. You are a pile of energy, a ball of energy, a bundle of energy. That's what you are in essence. That's why you are indestructible. You are energy, and energy is indestructible. So it doesn't matter how you try to damage yourself or do away with yourself, it's impossible. Can't. You'll always face yourself. Always, no matter what. You'll always be faced with yourself. And your greatest challenge is to be faced with yourself. It's much easier to face anyone, anything else, than it is yourself. And the reason why we face down other persons, places, and things is because we don't want to face ourselves. But once we start facing ourselves, we don't have the need to face anything or anyone down. We can let them all be. We don't have to sort them out. We don't have to correct them. We don't have to get them on track. We don't have to point out to them the errors of their ways. That all goes away once you've done all that to yourself. Isn't that interesting the way that happens? So in a sense, it is all about me. The right relationship with myself. It's not about me being absorbed only by me. That's the ego being absorbed by the ego. It's about the I of me being centered in the I of me. So it's not self, small self-absorption. It's greater self-expression. So we all have these tools, they're given to us. We all hear this all the time. It's all available to us. It's not anything so esoteric we don't understand it. It's very simple, it's very plain, it's very raw, it's very organic, it's very real, it's very definitive, and it's up to you and it's up to me whether or not we pick up this ball now and run with it. Sort ourselves out, in other words. The only one who can sort you out is you. See? Now, he says that self-treatment work will do it all for us, and he's right. However, self-treatment work is miraculous when I am maintaining my wonderful state of being. Well, when I get myself in too deep, when I get myself in trouble, and I'm occupied with just taking care of that, it's always good to seek a spiritual practitioner because they can be more objective than we can. I have at least 3 practitioners. One in particular, who's the first one I will seek when my nose is too close to it. Because really, the beauty and grace of going to a practitioner is to just simply relax and let them speak the word of truth, which is Spirit's own word, by means of your own grace in the first person, so that you don't have to think about anything, the right words or anything else. You just have to feel it and come into agreement with it, 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 and then say amen, and so it is. A practitioner to me is every bit as important as a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, if you need one, God preserve us from that need, you know, a grocer, you know, anybody who serves our human needs. Our spiritual needs have to be served too, you know. And you may think you can do it all yourself. You can't. We're heading toward being more self-sustained in that way. We are. And it does get longer and longer between the times when you need a practitioner. Once you are taking care and doing the prevention rather than the cure thing, and you're growing deeper and deeper in the awareness that everything's okay no matter what. Maybe all going to hell in a handbasket, but you know what, it's all okay. You can get to that point. Right now, what is your experience? Well, at the moment, everything's going to hell in a handbasket, but I know it's okay and good comes out of it. And you're not on your last nerve or trembling and quaking in fear, which is what we all have done and could share experiences of. So, are we good to go?
Yes.
Are we willing and able and ready for this good stuff called Treat Yourself to Life?
Yes.
Good. So today's going to be, the rest of it is going to be fabulous, yes?
Yes.
Not only are we going to treat ourselves to life, but guess what? We're going to encourage other people to treat themselves to life too. And it won't be by means of saying, come on, let's go and get an ice cream. Though that does have its place, especially if it's Handel's. Have you all been to Handel's? I shouldn't be saying this right now after saying. Well, anyway, Handel's. Best ice cream in the land. Homemade. Homemade. It's right down at the end of Prospect. It's right there near the corner bakery. And on Tuesday, it's a twofer. You'll see lines a mile long. And even in the winter, they have lines there any day. It's that good. God in ice cream handle form is good. It's very good. And as my mother used to say, a little of what you like is a good thing in moderation. So we are going to end now and not let you out there go into the day and, treat yourself to all that good stuff life has to offer, and know that all is well, and that whatever it is that's going on in you, you can handle it, you can manage it, you're equal to it, and it's on its way out. And so we do this, we have this little ceremony, we have this little ritual of reciprocity. We give energy, we receive energy, and as the same Raymond Charles Barker says, money is God in action. I like that a lot. And so let's take our gift between our amazing hands and bless it and say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good. And I release my gift with love. And so it is.